Welcome to Dying to Know, where we open up about everything that comes with losing a loved one.
Because the only thing worse than death is not being able to talk about it.
We're your bereavement babes, Leah and Rachel, and today is our pilot episode. Hi, Rach.
Hey, Leah.
How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
You
How
ready?
do you feel? We're here.
We're a little nervous, but we'll get through it.
This was a long time coming.
It was.
Yes. So let's rewind a bit and tell people why we're here, who we are, what we're doing.
How we got here.
Yes. So Rachel and I are current coworkers and also friends. You would consider me a friend, right?
I would consider you an outside of work friend. It's a big step.
It's official.
We went on vacations together. I feel like that's what takes you there.
Yes. So first I met you my second week of work. We were at a company retreat and you were at the pool giving henna tattoos out.
Yes, of course.
And I remember oh, this girl's pretty dope. Let me go over to this group and talk to them. And you gave me, do you remember what henna tattoo you gave me?
I did, because I was asking everyone what they wanted their future tattoos to be. So I believe it was the cactus, right?
Yes, and
also
I
we're
have
in
a tattoo.
Arizona, so
Yes.
you know.
And I eventually got a tattoo, which I have it now. But I remember when you were doing the henna art on me and you were asking me all these questions and it felt at first investigative, but also I'm she just wants to get to know me. And I'm oh, these are kind of direct questions, but really good questions.
But do you remember the odd thing that through all those questions we found out we were doing within the next 2 weeks?
No, what was
that
it?
We were both going to be in Baltimore for the Millennium Tour concert to see Pretty
Oh,
Ricky
yes!
perform. Yes. And that's when I knew
I forgot about that.
It was who else in the world, because we were both New York based right now, would go to Baltimore just to see B2K Pretty Ricky. So I was
yeah,
it truly is destiny that we're here now and friends.
Oh gosh. Okay, I forgot we did go see the Millennial Tour. Okay. And then fast forward from there, you hit me up and was tickets. This was 2020. No, was it 2020?
No, it was the beginning of. It was the beginning of 2020. Because
and you were tickets look cheap to New Orleans in February, this week that you had blocked out. And we were do we want to go? And I was yeah, I'm down. And then I heard from you, I heard nothing from you the rest of the week.
Because I was I think on payday. And literally payday comes around and you're so we're booking it today. Because then I was are we sure?
Yes.
We were friends, but again, still work friends at this time, not too much out of work. And payday hit and you're all right, I'm ready to book. Let's do it. And
we did it. And I feel that solidified the friendship outside of work.
Yes.
It was really kind of I talked to you about your family life and we talked about our names and I told you about the biblical story. Oh, we're sisters and this is what happened. And
and then
we did the ghost tour and Larry and all the things. We ate ourselves into a coma. I feel that was really the nail in the coffin.
Yeah, I feel once you share a room, everything's fair game.
Yeah.
And then I locked us out of the bathroom numerous times.
You did.
Numerous times.
That was interesting. So then I'm sorry. You really did lock us out. How many times was that?
There was only twice where someone had to come help us. But
Actually,
then we
But then fast forward from there, January of 21, you lost your dad.
Yes.
And then from January to June, 5 months later, I lost my dad.
Which is just the wildest it could be, especially being both kids of a group of 4, both in our early 30s. It was very odd. I don't know, not odd text, but it's just we had this group chat where we were both giving life updates, and the fact that the one group chat, both updates was hey guys, I'm so sorry. I want to tell you first before obviously it gets out with all of our coworkers that our fathers passed away, and it was almost too surreal and too odd for it to be happening both at the same time. But it definitely was an experience that not nice to have someone to go with, but it was. I feel using positive words feels weird, but to be able to talk to someone so openly about it.
No, for real. And outside of the group text, I'm going to read what you sent me because I think it was just so special. And I think it's one of the reasons that we're here today. So
I don't even remember this text, so now I'm nervous.
So this was the day after, and you put, Leah, it's hard, and I wish I had better advice for you, but I know there is a lot going on and a lot of things to do. And if you need help or have any questions or just need to vent, I'm here to listen and help. Love you, Leah. And then I put, love you too, babe. Thank you, babe, for definitely. Oh, wow. The grammar and spelling on this is terrible. But thank you, babe. We'll definitely lean on you because I have no idea what the fuck to do. But how and why are we living a parallel life right now?
Yeah.
Are you my sister from another mister? And then you go, anything, Leah, it's going to be a lot, but you got this. I know it's crazy. Bible sisters, question mark. Laugh out loud. I'm sorry our lives have to suck right now, but I hope we have a good story going forward, which I thought was great. And then we continued to talk. Like, you're like, hey, Leah, thinking about you, seeing if you need anything. This was like a couple days later. And I'm like, hey, Rach, thank you, friend. Any chance you'll be able to talk later today? Let me know. And you're like, yeah, I'm free. And I'm like, okay, talk to you tonight. You're like, okay. And I'm like, do you have a cocktail for this call? And I put like the broken heart emoji. And you're like, okay. And I'm like, KK, let me know when you're ready. And I think that's when we got on the phone after that, which really kind of like changed the trajectory. I think one of our friendship, and then two of like, that's one of the reasons why we're actually here today was like, we lived this parallel life. We became like fast friends at work. We had already went on like a trip together. And then here we were experiencing like the biggest life event at one time.
But not only that, I feel like you hear, especially our age, the biggest life event, and it's like the wedding.
Yeah.
It wasn't, or like giving birth. And for us, it was like the biggest loss to us that you'll ever experience. So I feel like it was just this odd parallel where like, I remember like having my little cocktail, sitting and watching the sunset, like having this conversation with you, and I feel like it did change everything, and that's why I feel like it's brought us here today, because it was so nice, like, talk about it and feel free to say all the horrible things that are happening, all of like the lighter things that what people are telling you and like what you're hearing, and I feel like you gathered all that and were able to take in all that information and push us to like get where we are now and where we are today and starting this podcast.
Yes, because I feel like you, in that conversation, you were kind of telling me like things that had happened to you in the last 5 months, and either like I had hit those milestones, like, oh yeah, this has already happened, or like you were saying things, I'm like, well, that's weird. I don't think that's going to happen to me and my family. And then when I would hit those milestones like 4 days later or a week or 2 weeks, and I was like, oh, like Rachel was right.
There is like a weird like timeline. There is like a weird timeline to death where it's like shock, grief, and maybe it's the stages, and that's something that we can go into later. But I feel like those initial days, it's very weird. Very little people talk about it. And the reason I even sent you the messages the way I did is because when I lost my dad, a coworker also reached out and said, there's so much unexpected things that no one's talking about. And again, he's not a coworker I talk to often. So he's like, if you do want to talk, like, feel free, and like you can reach out. And that was just such a refreshing feeling, because I felt like my life was now going at 100 miles an hour. And I'm just like, just to know that there's a break and other people have felt this too, felt like I wasn't alone for like a good couple minutes, which was really nice. And I just, you being a friend, I wanted to make sure you felt that way too.
Absolutely.
Which is something I hope everyone else in this podcast or listening, or any of the listeners, get a little taste of that too, where you don't feel so alone.
No, definitely. I feel like you definitely gave me a guide during that time. And it was kind of like I was tapping in with you. And I'm like, oh, damn, she was right about this. Or like, wow, this did happen. Or like, it hasn't happened. Or like, maybe it happened, but it wasn't the way that she had explained it. And I think past that, like fast forwarding to like later that fall, we had another work retreat where it brought me to Jersey, and I like stayed with you. And I remember during that time, like that bereavement time before like the burial, and also like the death of my dad, where like I would just kind of like write notes constantly. Like I just didn't want to forget anything that happened, like people who showed up, or like things that people brought, or like whatever was happening. I remember like after the retreat, we had did like a happy hour afterwards, and we were out pretty late. We were like eating ramen. I'm like, look at this note. Like, I've had dreams. It was a very long note.
I remember being like, no, I felt all this too, but I didn't know I should write it down.
I wrote like the first like 72 hours down, and like all this information and like dreams, and like, and I was like, you know, I'm thinking we could do a podcast, and like, I'm thinking the name of it could be this. And like, you told me about this, and I feel like what we had experienced in that time, like I was like, this is weird, and I feel like a lot of people just need to hear it. Like either people who are currently grieving, either people who need to like, or are going to bury their parents eventually, would want to hear something like this. And I remember like pressing you in the beginning. You were like, okay.
No, and like honestly, and with that, I like want to thank you because I feel like after a loss, no, for real, because I think the hardest thing about a loss is like showing up. And I like people, whether you're showing up sad or you're showing up depressed, like I think being able to like get out of bed and just go through your day, no one understands like how hard it is.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you for pushing me to be here because I like me on a podcast, like I'm the behind the computer girl. And I want to thank you for showing up and thank you for like going through your day even though you've lost someone so close to you.
Thank you, Rach. I wouldn't be here without you because I would not do anything like this without you.
No, and I feel like at this point we're just in sync and can't not do it together.
Yeah, no, that makes pretty good sense. But like when I was I feel like I was pressing you for years now because it was 2021.
It was a little, like it was a long time. I will give you that. I feel like I wrote it off as like, yeah, like we'll do it. Like if you can figure it out.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm definitely someone who needs that extra shove. And I was just like, if you get it, if you get it. And I remember being in the office and I think I was turning the and you're like, are we doing it or not? And I was just like, no, like I will do it. Cause I was just, because I feel like you're like, I'm going to do it no matter what. Like, I want
really
this message to get out.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, like, I do want to do it together. I do want to do it with you because I do feel like both of our stories are beautiful. And I feel like we've collectively learned because we've started therapy. We've done so many things that, like, we have this experience to share. Yeah. And that's when I was like, I know someone who might be able to help us with this.
Yes. I was so pumped when you were like, yeah, like, I'm willing to do it. And, like, I found someone who was going to, like, record us and edit it. And I was like, really?
No, and then I feel like you got a little scared when I'm like, it's going to be on camera and it's going to be official.
Yeah, I was like, I wanted audio only, but you were like, no, it's going to be official. It's a camera and like everything set up.
No, I mean, we got to get on the social media, so.
No, that's true.
We got to get it out there for everyone.
Yes. But like in the midst of all of this, I'm like, is the purpose of this like really going to do well? Like I didn't want it to be like a trauma bonding situation or I didn't want it to be like meaningless. Like people lose parents every day. So I was like, let me really look into this like research and see what happens. So that's what I did.
And what did you find?
And I'm going to tell you what I found. So according to the United States Census Bureau, the percentage of people with dead fathers is greater than there is with moms who have passed.
Ooh.
And then specifically in 2021, which is the year that we both lost our fathers, like breaking it up by race, 19.6% of Black people between the ages of 18 to 29 have lost a parent already, compared to like whites who are 10.1%, Asians who are 9.5%, and then Hispanics who are 11.5%. So like if you are 18 to 29 and Black, you are in the highest percentage of losing a parent.
Like you've probably already lost a parent.
Exactly. You probably already lost one or you're about to. And that's probably sad.
No, but I think with that statistic and with what the goal of the podcast is like we're hoping to help people better communicate with someone who's lost a parent.
Absolutely.
Or better understand like how to help someone who is grieving or understand how to approach someone who's grieving and understand that like we are grieving 24/7. Like it's ins and outs. Some days we're happy because we miss them and we feel them with us or have this memory that we want to share with everyone. And some days it is the lowest of the lows. So I feel like that statistic is like jarring and alarming, but I think it's also not a goal, but I feel like we're hoping that we can make talking to like people
therapeutic.
Or give people better understanding of how to talk to someone who's lost a parent.
18 to 29 is very young, in my opinion.
Very young.
To lose and bury a
30
parent.
felt young.
Yeah, I want to say 30 definitely felt, well, I was 31, but like 31 felt pretty young. And like people who are grieving, I think like when you're in the midst of it, sometimes you can feel hopeless. And then those who do feel some sort of hope, it's like, here's a podcast to listen to during that time. And like, there is an other side of this that I hope that those people can feel the hope through it and just know that we're all in this together.
Yeah, I hope what people do get out of this podcast is grief has no timeline and they get to learn a lot from it and learn how to talk to people going through it.
Yes, because talking is therapeutic. So this podcast and this episode is dedicated to the men that we lost in our lives, our fathers. Rachel's dad, Jeffrey Joseph Rappaport, and my dad, Robert James Kinlaw. You are missed immensely every single day. Again, we're your bereavement babes, Leah and Rachel. Thanks for grieving with us.